when we speak about having an anchor in meditation, often we start with the breath. And again, why? Because it's always with us. We're always breathing, technically. So we're basically only one breath away from being present, always. And another beautiful thing about the breath is that not only it's always there, it's always present, but it's also always changing, right? When you pay attention to your breath, you see that it has it has different rhythms and different length, and it's elastic, and it moves, it changes all the time. And that represents life, actually, the aliveness of life and whatever's happening. Just like nature, it's always changing, it's always moving. And when we get anchored with the breath, we also see all the moods and the emotions and the thoughts. We see them way more clearly because they're just floating by the breath, right? We're connected to the breath, and those things just float by. And last but not least, the fourth element in our body is air, right? We have the four elements in the body, and the air is directly linked to the breathing through the lungs. So mindful breathing is a direct way to experience the element of air in the body, which is another way of doing mindfulness of the body. And we'll practice, but first I will explain a little bit how we do it with a little bit more instructions. So first of all, the posture is important, like always when we meditate, not because we have a specific dogma that the posture needs to be a certain way because it needs to look like we're super experienced meditators. No, the posture is important because it helps us cultivate certain qualities of presence, right? If we're sitting in a way where we're stable and grounded and still and alert and, in a dignified way, then those qualities will be reflected in our practice, in our meditation. If we're completely, slouched on the couch, it's a bit more difficult to have this stability and groundedness when we practice. So that's why we try to sit, in an upright position with an open chest, open heart. So we cultivate this receptivity and basically an awareness to what's here, openness to life. And then we breathe, which is what we're anyway doing, but we become aware of breathing. With mindfulness, we're not trying to control the breath. And there are many disciplines that do that with a lot of health benefits, like Wim Hofman, all kinds of breath work, or the pranayama in the yogic tradition. All kinds of disciplines are interested in controlling the breath in a specific way to create some specific results in the body and the mind. And those are great, but it's not what we're doing here. Here we're really learning to relax, relaxing with the breath and letting go of the need to control, which is why it's so hard, right? Because we're usually not really doing that in life, right? This letting go and, not controlling and relaxing. It's often the reason why we come to the meditation practice. So then what do? We do with the breath what we do with our life. If we're always trying to control our life, very ordered and specific way, we're going to do that with the breath. So that's why it's so fascinating to start with the breath. And basically you want to breathe at the pace that supports you being present. That's it. We're not trying to have a specific rhythm, a specific length. Just breathe in a way that helps you be present. And that's going to change from one time to the other. And we're letting the breath bring the mind and the body together, right? And we're letting the breath breathe itself as it chooses. There's no struggling and striving and wanting to be the breath be a specific way. We just let the breath breathe itself. Just do your thing. Do your thing. I'm just going to observe you and I'm going to relax and I'm just going to let you do your thing. And if you feel that you're a little bit restless and very agitated, you can try to focus on the out breath a little bit more. So you pay attention to the out breath, and then you're going to inhale naturally, right? Your body wants to. And you stay with the out breath, and then you're going to breathe in naturally, and then you stay with the out breath, and that has a little bit more of a calming effect. And the other way around if you're feeling really sleepy. And you can notice the breath in different parts of the body, right? So you can notice it under the nostrils, so the difference of temperature of the air coming in and out of the nose. You can notice, of course, your chest or your belly rising and falling. And sometimes if you don't feel your breath, it's actually helpful to put your hand either on your chest or on your belly to really feel the movement on the breath. You can feel it in the back of the throat. There's this, tingling, swirling. And yeah, that's it. That's what we do. We try to find the breath somewhere in the body where we can feel it the most. And we use this as our anchor. This is the place we're going to come back to. Maybe we bring a little smile to our lips just to invite some relaxation. And the last piece is that if at any moment the breath doesn't feel right, if it doesn't work for you for any reason, you can use what we did last week, the body scan or the touch points of the body as an anchor, right? We will practice today mindfulness of the breath. We will use the breath as an anchor. But if that doesn't work for you, it's completely fine to, let it go and use the body instead. But again, if you do that, just being very aware of why you're doing it. Is it just that I'm bored, this breath is always the same and I want to move? Or is it because really, really doesn't work for you? And this is your call to experiment. And then just relaxing without striving or pushing or trying to make anything special happen. It's the breath. And there's going to be stuff coming up, maybe what we call the unfinished business of the heart, maybe some emotions or plans or anxieties or fears, just letting them rise and fall like waves of the ocean around the breath. And feeling how the breath is just breathing itself in the middle of it. The breath doesn't care. It's just doing its thing, just breathing itself. And you're there to notice. That's the only thing you're here to do. And if you realize that your mind is completely off, somewhere wandering, this is a magic moment, because it's a moment where you notice. This is a moment of mindfulness, and you can always come back. You can always return and craft a new pathway, go back home to the breath. And that's it. And I have just one quote for you before we go into practice. Wonderful author and super experienced mindfulness teacher Joseph Goldstein, and he says, in the midst of endless thought proliferation, of emotional storms, of energetic ups and downs, we can always come back to just this breath, just this step. So many times in my practice, I was thankful that it was that simple. We can always come back to the simplest aspect of what's already here. Can always come back to the breath. It's just one breath away. So this should inspire us for our practice.